What if I told you that the most extraordinary construction project in the known universe is not the International Space Station, is not any of the great architectural wonders of the ancient or modern world, is not even the Large Hadron Collider or any other monument to human scientific ambition, but is happening right now, quietly and invisibly, inside the skull of every baby born today, in the dark interior of a 3-pound organ that looks from the outside like it is doing almost nothing, and that this construction project begins before birth, runs at a pace that will never be equaled again in the entire remaining lifespan of the person it is building, and produces, in just the first few years of life, something so complex that the most powerful computers ever created cannot come close to replicating it. Something that will go on long after the construction slows, to compose music and build friendships and fall in love and grieve and wonder and create and understand its own existence. And that this entire staggering process is fueled, shaped, directed, and either accelerated or stunted by the ordinary, daily, unremarkable feeling moments of what happens between a baby and the people who care for them. What is happening inside a baby's brain is not a passive process of growing and filling in. It is one of the most active, most responsive, most environmentally sensitive processes in all of biology, and the details of it, when you really understand them, when you let the full picture settle, have the power to change forever the way you think about what it means to hold a baby, to talk to a baby, to be present with a baby, to be the environment inside which a human brain is deciding what kind of brain it is going to be. Begin with the sheer scale of what the brain is doing in the first years of life, because the numbers alone are enough to stop you cold. A baby is born with approximately 100 billion neurons, roughly the same number as an adult brain. But what is almost entirely absent at birth is the connectivity between those neurons, the synapses, the junctions, the electrochemical bridges across which all information in the brain travels, and the building of those connections is the central project of the first years of life, a project that proceeds at a rate so fast it seems almost biologically impossible, because in the first years after birth, the brain forms synaptic connections at a rate of approximately 1 million per second, 1 million new connections between neurons every single second of every single day, a number so large it is nearly impossible to hold in the mind as a real quantity rather than an abstraction. And yet, it is a real quantity. It is a real rate of construction. And it means that the brain of a 2-year-old has roughly twice as many synaptic connections as the brain of an adult, a surplus of connectivity so vast and so dense that the neural landscape of early childhood looks nothing like the leaner, more refined, more specialized brain that emerges from adolescence. And what happens to that surplus, what the brain does with it over the following years, is one of the most important and most misunderstood stories in all of developmental neuroscience. The process by which the brain moves from its peak of synaptic density in early childhood toward the more efficient adult architecture is called synaptic pruning, and it is exactly what it sounds like. The brain systematically eliminates the connections that are not being used, that are not being activated by experience, that are not proving themselves necessary in the specific environment the child is growing up in. And it keeps, strengthens, insulates, and speeds up the connections that are being used, that are being activated repeatedly and reliably by the things the child encounters and does and feels in their particular life. And this process of use it or lose it sculpting turns the generic, maximally connected baby brain into the specific, efficient, personalized adult brain that reflects not just human neurology in general, but this particular human's particular history, this particular life lived in this particular environment, this particular set of experiences woven permanently into the structure of the brain that will carry them forward. What drives the initial explosion of synaptic connections in the first months of life is sensory experience. Every sight, Every sound, every touch, every taste, every smell that enters the baby's awareness triggers neural activity, and neural activity triggers synapse formation because the brain builds connections where the electricity flows, reinforces pathways that are activated repeatedly, and the rich, continuous, overwhelming flood of sensory information that a baby encounters in every waking moment is, at the neural level, a continuous trigger for the construction of new connections, a constant stimulus for the brain to wire itself more densely, more intricately, more completely than it will ever wire itself again in any subsequent period of life. And this is why the first years of life are described by neuroscientists as a sensitive period, a window of time during which the brain is more responsive to environmental input, more capable of being shaped by experience, more able to form new connections with ease and speed than it will be at any later stage, because the molecular machinery that drives rapid synaptogenesis is running at its highest capacity in infancy and will gradually slow over the coming years in a developmental schedule encoded in the genome, and once that window narrows, it does not fully reopen, and the connections that were not built during the sensitive period are much harder to build afterward, which is one of the most sobering and one of the most motivating facts in all of developmental science. But before this settles into anxiety, here is the reframe that matters. The sensitive period is not a threat, it is an invitation, and the kind of experience that drives optimal brain development in infancy is not expensive, not specialized, not something that requires flashcards or educational toys or structured programs. It is conversation, it is responsive interaction. It is the back and forth of a caregiver noticing what a baby is attending to and engaging with it. It is the sound of a voice that adjusts its pitch and its pace and its warmth to the baby's state. It is the touch of hands that hold and soothe and play. It is the face that looks back and responds and is there. It is, in the most direct and literal neurological sense, love expressed through presence, and the brain that receives it wires itself differently, more richly, more resiliently, more completely than the brain that does not. Now here is the first twist that tends to genuinely shake people when they hear it for the first time. The brain regions that develop most rapidly in the first years of life are not the ones most adults would guess. They are not the regions associated with logic or reasoning or language comprehension in the explicit conscious sense. They are the regions associated with emotion regulation, with stress response, with the social brain, with the capacity to feel safe and to feel connected. And these regions, including the limbic system and its critical node, the amygdala, the circuits of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis that govern the stress response, the early developing social brain networks, are wired by relational experience in a way and at a depth that no other kind of experience can replicate, meaning that the emotional environment of early childhood is not just a backdrop to brain development, it is one of its primary architects, and the question of whether the early relational environment is safe and warm and consistent or uncertain and stressful and unpredictable is not a question about a baby's emotional well-being in a soft, peripheral sense. It is a question about the literal physical structure of the developing brain, because chronic stress in early childhood, driven by inconsistent caregiving or environmental chaos or prolonged separation or unresolved threat, floods the developing brain with cortisol in amounts and for durations that the infant nervous system is not equipped to manage. And cortisol in excess is toxic to developing neural tissue, literally damaging the synaptic connections that are being built at such extraordinary rate, literally pruning away architecture that the brain was in the process of constructing, leaving gaps in the regulatory and emotional circuits that will be difficult to fill later because the sensitive period during which they were easiest to build will have passed. This is not said to create guilt or alarm. It is said because the inverse is equally true and equally important. A brain that develops in a warm, consistent, responsive early environment builds its stress regulation systems on a foundation of felt safety, wires its social brain with the template of reliable human connection, develops the emotional regulatory circuits on the expectation that distress will be met with soothing and that the world, though sometimes difficult, is fundamentally navigable. And this brain, the brain built inside a good enough early environment, carries those wired-in advantages forward into every domain of life, every relationship, every challenge, every moment of difficulty that the future will bring. Here is the second twist, and it is perhaps the most mind-expanding single fact in all of infant neuroscience. A baby is not just building a brain. A baby is building a specific brain tuned to the specific world they have been born into. A process researchers call experience-expectant and experience-dependent development. And what this means is that the human brain evolved not to develop into a single fixed form, but to use early experience as information about the environment that the developing organism will need to navigate and to wire itself accordingly to build the brain that will be most effective in the particular social, linguistic, sensory, and emotional world that early experience suggests it is entering. This means that a baby born into a linguistically rich environment, surrounded by multiple languages being spoken with warmth and expressiveness, builds a brain with enhanced phonological processing and a broader capacity for language acquisition than a baby born into a linguistically sparse environment. Not because the baby was born with more language ability, but because the brain used the early experience of rich language input as a signal to invest more heavily in the neural infrastructure for language. A baby born into a high-stress, threat-heavy environment builds a brain with a more sensitive, more reactive stress response system, not as a failure, but as an adaptation, because a highly tuned threat detector is genuinely more useful in a dangerous environment than a relaxed, trusting nervous system. And the tragedy is not the adaptation itself, but the fact that the environment that produced it often changes, and the adapted brain carries its wiring into a safer world where the same high sensitivity that was adaptive becomes a source of difficulty. The brain is not building itself according to a fixed plan. It is building itself according to the best evidence it has about what kind of world it is entering, and the evidence it uses is the evidence of early experience, which is why early experience matters in the way that it does, and to the depth that it does. Not because childhood is the only time that matters, but because it is the time when the brain is most actively using experience as architectural instruction. What does all of this mean, held together in a single view? It means that the sleeping baby, whose brain is forming 1 million synaptic connections per second, is not sleeping through their development, but constructing it. That the baby, in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, being talked to and held and responded to by someone who loves them, is having their neural architecture shaped by that conversation and that holding and that response in ways that will still be visible in the structure of their brain decades from now. It means that the most important question about a baby's brain development is not what toys they have, or what educational videos they watch, or what structured experiences have been arranged for them, but what the emotional quality of their daily relational environment is. Whether the people around them are present and warm and responsive and consistent, whether distress is met with soothing and curiosity, with engagement and joy with reflection, whether the baby's inner world is being acknowledged and mirrored and met by the outer world day after day after day. It means that the ordinary, unscheduled, unremarkable moments of daily life with a baby, the diaper change accompanied by a song, the feeding accompanied by eye contact, the walk in which a caregiver narrates what they are seeing because the baby seems interested, the nighttime soothing that comes even on the 5th or 6th or 10th waking, are not the background of brain development. They are brain development. They are the literal raw material from which the brain is building itself. And they leave marks that persist across a lifetime in the form of neural architecture, in the form of widened expectations about the world, in the form of the regulatory circuits and the social circuits and the emotional circuits that will shape every subsequent experience this person has of being alive and in relationship with other people. So the next time you look at a baby, peaceful in sleep or wide-eyed in waking, quiet in contemplation or loud in distress, know that you are looking at the most extraordinary construction project in the known universe, running at full capacity, building something from the raw material of every moment, and that the moments that feel most ordinary to you, the moments that feel like simply being there, are exactly the ones that matter most of all. Subscribe for more mind secrets.